malaria, maybe norovirus. I'm not a mosquito expert, but these bugs can kill people. They kill over 600,000 people globally a year. Mosquito-borne illnesses do. How do we get rid of them? Usually we do something with test tubes in a lab, sterilizing male mosquitoes, inoculating them, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of works. Not really that well. Well, maybe it could be worse, but a startup promises to kill all mosquitoes, or at least wage war against them, using drones. And we're going to discuss it here with Carmi Levy. It is time for Technology Time. Carmi's a tech analyst. Carmi, welcome back.
Good to be with you, David. As you were introducing us, I was like busy scratching my arm because I was walking the dog last night and had like just gotten bit to bits and pieces. So this is a story that's near and dear to my heart. Any technology that can get rid of mosquitoes, I think, is a good thing. You're right. It isn't just an inconvenience thing. It kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. And so there's this company in France, they call themselves Tornioles, and they have invented these tiny little drones. They're about 40 grams a piece. So like barely, like lighter than the watch that you wear on your wrist. And these drones have ultrasonic sonar, and they use AI to autonomously locate and track mosquitoes by zeroing in on their wingbeat frequency. They can actually hear, they listen for it, and they can tell, ooh, that's a mosquito that's flying. And then they launch, they fly after them, and they don't zap them or anything. They actually bump into them with one of their 4 propellers, and they essentially, they slice them to death.
Decapitate them. These are like the angel of death for mosquitoes.
Exactly. And so the goal here is to have a bunch of these micro drones. They patrol an area up to 5 acres. So imagine like a big farmer's field that has an insect problem. You put a bunch of sort of base stations, like a charging station, all over the field. And then each drone can fly up to about 3 minutes or so before it has to head back to recharge. So obviously, if there's a scale thing, they don't fly very far. So you'd have to have a lot of them, but they're very light, they're very cheap, and they're very sophisticated. They can actually tell the difference between different kinds of insects. So for example, we want to get rid of mosquitoes, but we don't want to get rid of the bees. Bees are good, right? So they can hear that that's a bee and they won't launch after them. But if it's a mosquito, it'll launch, nail them, go back to recharge, then take off and fly again. Kind of cool technology. They're, of course, testing this at scale, sort of growing larger networks of this, but they've tested it sort of individually, and this stuff works pretty well. The video of it is pretty compelling. And actually, it almost looks sci-fi like. Very, very cool to see.
I mean, anything to stop spreading mosquito-borne illness or yeah, I think I said norovirus was mosquito spread, and it's not.
No, those are cruise ships. Don't go on a cruise ship.
I think it's just like West Nile, dengue, maybe malaria, Zika.
Yeah, anything that is spread by a mosquito, and certainly there are countries in the world where this is the leading cause of death. And so up until now, the answer for controlling mosquito populations has always been chemicals. So remember back decades ago, DDT. Problem there was it also killed off birds. And whenever you spray an area, there is going to be some other kind of impact. And so this doesn't use chemicals. But the flip side, of course, is that if you kill all of the mosquitoes in a particular area, then you do upset the ecological balance. So because you now are affecting animals further up the food chain who are now, who would normally be feeding on mosquitoes. So there still is an ecological impact, but it's certainly not chemical based, and it's certainly something worth investigating further.
So that is really, really cool. And I think it'll be an amazing technology to get rid of pests.
Yeah, I want one.
Drones.
I want some of those for my house. Like
I want
honestly,
one that shoots lasers,
Yeah, that'd
also,
be kind of cool.
won't the drones make a mosquito-like sound? Won't they go zzz? Fun fact about me, I am not allergic to mosquito saliva or venom or whatever they put inside of you.
Wow.
So I can watch a mosquito bite me just like it would bite you, and then it flies away and it does not leave a mark. Am I a superhero? Wow. Am I a genetically evolved?
You sound like it. Yeah, you sound like a genetic freak, and you should submit yourself for further medical study.
I don't think I'm alone in this, but a very small percentage of people are not allergic to mosquitoes. I'm one of them. I am lucky. My girlfriend hates me for it. Okay, let's do our next story.
I'm just impressed.
Let's do our next story here. I saw a video of this one. If anyone listening wants to check it out, they should. It'll be on YouTube, whatever. But China launched a rocket into space. They landed the rocket back on Earth. It's a reusable one. And the way they did it is so cool. They used like cables to like suspend it mid-air. Is my understanding correct there?
Yeah, very much so. And so anyone who's ever watched a SpaceX land a Falcon 9 first stage on one of those barges in the ocean, it kind of looks familiar, but with a twist. So the Chinese rocket is called Long March 10B, and they just figured out how to nail a similar landing on a barge. But what's different in the Chinese case is there's like this sort of box-like structure on top of the ocean-going barge, and the rocket kind of fires and lowers itself onto that, and then as it approaches, tensioned cables draw together and kind of catch the rocket in midair, and so then it just kind of hangs there a few feet above the barge. And so the advantage here is that you don't have to put landing legs on it. You don't have to build the software and all of the complexity
and carry the landing legs into space.
Exactly.
Weight, like so 1 gram of weight is equal to so much rocket fuel.
Exactly. Every amount of mass that you're using for legs is something that you're not able to allocate to fuel or to cargo. So the Chinese have figured out a way it's more efficient, because now you don't have to drag that weight into orbit. It means more mass to orbit. So it's in the same class as the Falcon 9. And this is important because the Long March 10B is going to be their sort of key sort of mid-range rocket like the Falcon 9 to carry satellites and cargo into orbit. The human version of that is known as the Long March 10A. That will use the same technology. So this thing is going to be a workhorse for the Chinese space program, which is it needs, because they're doubling the size of their space station, the Tiangong space station. They're introducing they're called Mangzhu capsules to bring astronauts into orbit. They're of course aiming for the moon, and after that to Mars. And so China's got some really ambitious plans in space. They're competing against the U.S. for dominance.
And how are they doing?
Reusability is critical.
If we look at some of the private companies like SpaceX in the U.S. and just what NASA's doing, and then we look at what the Chinese are doing, who's doing better? Who's winning the space race right now?
I think it's an even, it's fairly even. The Chinese have moved very quickly to develop a lot of the core technologies that once were the exclusive domain of the U.S. They are now the second country in the world to have reusability capability. Of course, in the U.S., SpaceX has had it for just over a decade, and Blue Origin has done it twice with their New Glenn booster. And so I would say it's just like it was in the late 60s between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, it's a toss-up. And China has made it very clear they are putting resources into it. They want to win this thing. And the fact that they have mastered reusability, I think, is a huge inflection point in this new modern era space race. And right now, I think the advantage has to tip toward China.
We in North America have the benefit of history. We look back in time, the U.S. kind of won the space race. The Soviet Union fell, collapsed. But that doesn't mean this current technological competition. It doesn't mean that the U.S. is necessarily going to be winning. China might get people on the moon better than we do, kind of thing.
Yep. There have been a number of setbacks in the U.S. effort to get back to the moon by 2030. Blue Origin, for example, which is making one of the landers, in fact, had a significant accident on the launch pad last month. And they're now rebuilding the launch pad. They're not launching New Glenn until this thing is investigated and figured out. And so the schedule keeps slipping to the right in the U.S. While China continues to succeed with these new technologies. And so it is very, very close. Arguably, we can call it neck and neck. And I think ultimately a little competition is good. It puts pressure on American investors. It puts pressure on the American government. And let's face it, Canada's government too. We have a role to play here. We may not have the big rockets, but we certainly contribute lots of technology to the space race.
The last Artemis mission had a Canadian on it. So
exactly. And our technology, let's face it, we do most of the robotics on the ISS, Canadarm2, the Dexter space robot. A lot of the automation is Canadian sourced. So we have a role to play here.
Don't get me started on the Canadarm, the Canadarm, or the Canadarm. We still don't know how to pronounce it here. Carmi Levy's a tech analyst. He joins us every week for It's Time for Technology Time. Carmi, thank you for being here.